apologize because I have a very bad cough. So I will try not to have like resonating cough come through the speaker. And also, if I can't continue, Rambir has offered to finish my paper if my voice gives out. But I want to apologize for that from the beginning. And also, I want us all to just take note of what Rambir, Joel, and Parvinder Dhaliwal have accomplished with this series of events over the next few days. I think because we're in a very big room, it doesn't seem like there's many people here, but I counted there's more than 30 people here, which is quite good for an academic seminar. So I don't want us to be fooled by the size of the space and not recognize that this is a real achievement. Having an academic seminar on this topic, also the incredible events that they've arranged and the culminating in the event on Sunday night. So let's all give them a hand. I think it's very impressive. So, how do I click this ahead? Do I tell you? Do okay, I'll tell you. Oh, okay, so I'll tell you when to go. So I guess my perspective that I'll offer today to this seminar is quite different from earlier ones in that I'm a historian. But I don't think it's irrelevant to the kinds of discussions that have been presented previously, because I think if we want to think about women and how they're represented today, it's also important to think about the past. There's a tendency to assume that we're doing so much better today. Oh, the past is a time when women were oppressed and a time where we can't retrieve that voice of women. And while that is true to an extent, as I'll discuss, I think it's also important that we seek those places where women's voices come out and where representations of women and men come together. That's also very important. Gendering takes place for women and for men. Men have roles that are prescribed for them, women have roles that are prescribed for them. But there are times when they come together. And the context that I'll discuss it in is the Sikh tradition. So the title of the paper is A Different History, Telling the Story of Sikh Women. Excuse me. Doris Jacobs, who teaches in Eastern Canada, in a recent book has argued that the history of women in the Sikh tradition has largely been either ignored or erased, idealized or abstracted. Thus, while some, both within and outside of the tradition, quoting Professor Jacobs, repeatedly insist that women and men are inherently equal in the Sikh worldview, in reality, she says, historical writings contain virtually nothing about women, apart from minimal asides referring to the occasional exceptional woman. In addition, women in general have not occupied and still do not occupy prominent positions of public power in the tradition, with a few notable exceptions. So there are exceptions to that rule, but the rule still prevails. Thus, she argues that rhetoric extolling a kind of feminism within the writings and ideologies of the gurus, as done, for example, in the work of Nikhiganinder Kaur Singh at Colby College in the US, and as is common in popular discourse, we hear that a lot about the feminism within Sikhism, she argues seems not to provide a full accounting of the ways in which gender has worked in the differential formation of female and male Sikh subjects, and that has enduring consequences for kind of daily life today. So I enter into this debate by examining some places where the stories of Sikh women do emerge in the historical record. It's indeed true that although women are mentioned occasionally in the Sikh historiographical tradition, they do not occupy a significant place within it. Interestingly, they do find a place within material culture, or objects or things, related to the Sikh past. Thus, while the most commonly seen objects related to Sikh history consist of weapons and other objects generally associated with men, and I have oops, that's the wrong word. Did you skip one?
Sorry, I had already changed it.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know that. Okay, there we are. Such as these itihasic or historical weapons at Paonta Sahib. Objects also provide a unique location for the telling of women's lives. Here's an example. Can I have the next one, please? Is a piece of embroidery completed by the daughter of the sixth Guru, Guru Har Gobind, which is found at a Gurdwara associated with the sixth Guru in Kiratpur. Objects like these tell about the ways in which women acted in the world, the stories they created with their lives, and the relationship of these lives to the gurus of the Sikh tradition. The stories of women's lives and their interaction with the Sikh gurus are therefore kind of lived, enacted, and then remembered in the present through these objects. Representations like these, and I apologize, I'm going to get more scholarly and quote some people. Hope that's okay. Representations like these and the practices associated with them have constituted a primary mode of Sikh discursive formation of tradition. That's how the Sikh tradition has been formed, as articulated by Sabah Mahmud with reference to Islamic tradition, whereby the past is the very ground through which the subjectivity and self-understanding of a tradition's adherents are constituted. So through the past, the tradition is made present in the now. So in other words, the past has been, and in many ways continues to be, a primary mode through which men and women have been constituted as Sikh. And objects like these, which represent the Sikh past, enable the construction of a relationship to this past. And objects like these are very common in gurdwaras in Punjab. Objects like this were used in the past by women from the 17th century and 18th century, as we'll see in the examples that I'll give you, the early 18th century, and continue in the present to narrate the past, and in so doing, help us create our present. As we, in Joan Scott's word, Joan Scott is a feminist historian, confront what she calls the politics of existing histories in order to understand how gender operates within them, we may also understand how the writing of history in the Sikh tradition is expressed through these material culture, through these objects. What I'd like to show in focusing on these objects is that they're not just objects women used, but they're actually a way of expressing Sikh ethics, Sikhs' ways of being and acting in the world for the sake of others, for the good. Okay, if we can name Charles Taylor as a philosopher, and he names ethics as really doing that which is good. So I would argue that these objects relate to this much larger category of being in the Sikh tradition, where people are created as ethical actors. And we see women here being created as ethical actors, acting as Sikhs, and acting for the community. So looking at the way women are remembered through objects like this, we get an entry into these larger discussions about what is ethics, what does it mean to be Sikh, and what does it mean to serve. So today I'll present two stories, two exemplary cases, one which is very well known in Sikh circles and one much less so. And by doing so, examine how the objects that we'll look at related to these women who lived in the late 17th and early 18th century reflect the broader form of ethical intervention that we all know by the general term of seva. Okay, so seva is obviously a tremendously important concept and form of action in the Sikh tradition, and we'll look at these objects for what they tell us about seva. Women have been represented as religious agents within these kinds of historical narration, attested to through objects associated with their service in relation to this larger kind of imperative within Sikh tradition to serve that men as well as women participate in. So seva is available across gendered lines, but it also is gendered. Men and women serve in different ways. So it's a really interesting place to look at our vision, our gaze, for understanding how it is that people are gendered and how they are also not gendered through service. Okay, so I'll start with my first story, the story of a woman who serves the Guru, which is not particularly well known. The woman is Mai Desang, who is remembered today in Chakwati Singhwala, a small village in District Bathinda in Punjab, India. The story of Mai Desang is a tradition that remains fairly local to the Malwa region in the southwest of India and Punjab, and it doesn't usually figure in most academic histories of the Sikh Panth or community. If you visit the site today, you'll find a very large Gurdwara designed to house a number of objects that relate to the 10th Guru, Guru Gobind Singh. Objects at the site include a manji or cot, on which the final guru was, the human living gurus was said to have sat, a tawa or large cooking service, which is said to have belonged to Mai Desang, and which was used by her to make roti for the guru. Can I have the next? There we go, there is the tawa. A low chair said to have belonged to Mai Desang. Can we have the next slide? There's the chair. And upon which the Guru's wife, Matasab Devi, sat. Sorry, I can't speak. And a silk dastar of Guru Gobind Singh and other clothing belonging to the Guru and his wife. Okay, so there's the collection of clothing. Excuse me. So this site features a wide array of historical objects and a number of users of them if we look at the collection overall. The Guru's wife, members of the head family of the village, for whom the village was named, and Mai Desan, who is a member of that group. This site is not unusual in the way it gathers objects related to the Guru for veneration, for this public process of remembrance. Objects related to the Gurus and other heroes and martyrs are collected and revered in private homes and sacred sites across Punjab, as well as in the broader Sikh diaspora in India and farther afield. We've had visits in the last few years from Bhai-Rupa of objects related to the Gurus that have come to Surrey. So, such objects are also collected by others outside the Sikh community, usually by those who are descended by individuals who had some sort of relationship with the Gurus or other important persons in the tradition, and revere the objects received as a commemoration of that connection. Such collections constituted a way in which the Guru, particularly the 9th and 10th Gurus, but also earlier Gurus, substantiated relationships with followers and allies through gifting practices that mirrored royal gifting practices. So this is all mirroring practice you saw in courts, using such exchanges to materialize and concretize relationships, community membership, and establish authority. So you can see them all over Punjab today at the Akal Takht and many different locations. And all these objects are associated with the Sikh Gurus, martyrs, and other revered persons. Weapons, which we saw at Paonta Sahib, they are the most common of these objects, but as you can see at Chhatrapati Singh, they take a lot of different forms. Objects related to the wives of the Guru are not unknown in collections like this, although they aren't common. They are collected alongside objects specifically related to the Gurus themselves. We saw the daughter of the 6th Guru, her embroidery, so relatives and the wives of the Gurus are occasionally present in these collections. Now, the presence of the objects related to the 10th Guru's wives is particularly important because it doesn't just relate to their importance vis-a-vis the Guru himself, but also the importance of the wives themselves. So, for example, after the death of the 10th Guru, Matasab Devi was known to be a leader of the community in Delhi and then also in Amritsar. She issued orders to the community, the Hukamname, in the name as herself, as his wife, to the community. And Kesar Singh Chibber's Bansavali, Pachaya, and Tasanka dedicates an entire chapter to her, to Matasab Devi, as a leader of the community. So again, this is where we see these stories of important Sikh women. So obviously Sikh historians had good reason to tell the history and the story of these women in the community. In the case of Mai Desan, however, we find the representation of a woman who had no other relationship with the Guru except one constituted by seva, by service to him. So if you go to the next slide, that's why we'll return to this slide, which shows her tawa, the tawa that she used to cook for him. So a little bit more about her as a person. She was a widow of one of the patriarchs of the Chhatrapati Singh family. She was childless, and as a result of not bearing any children, she was not treated with respect or kindness in the family. This is according to several different representations, and also the family itself. It tells the story this way. When the Guru visited the village and this family, he exposed this and other intrigues in the family. For example, 2 of the brothers were estranged, and he brought them all together. He kind of challenged them to get past the animosities in the family. In particular, his acceptance and the value he gave to Mai Desan's expression of devotion to him raised her status in the family as an honored servant of the Guru. So she became, her status was...
Saiban, आज वैसाखी का दिन है। Position, load.